From space, the world had once looked like a jewel. Its oceans were silver. Its forests glowed with soft blue light. The Lauren people had lived there for 10,000 years, building cities of crystal and light, healing the sick of 100 worlds, and never once raising a weapon against another living thing. Now, the silver oceans were black with ash, the blue forests were fire, and the Lauren were dying. Elder Toven stood at the top of the last standing tower in the city of Ves. He was old, even by Lauren standards. His skin, which had once glowed with the soft light of his people, was now dim and gray. His hands shook as he looked at the sky. The Keth swarm had come 3 months ago. No one knew where the Keth came from. They were not a species, in the way the Lauren understood species. They were a swarm, a hive, a hunger-given form, millions of creatures that shared one mind, one purpose. They moved from world to world, consuming everything. They took the metal from the ground. They took the water from the seas. They took the bodies of the dead and made more of themselves. And now they had come to Asara. Toven watched as another Keth ship descended through the clouds. It was ugly, a thing of black metal and sharp edges, nothing like the graceful vessels of the Concord races. More soldiers would pour out of it soon. More death would follow. Behind him, the last of his people huddled in the tower. There were maybe 10,000 left. 10,000, from a population that had once numbered in the billions. A young Lauren named Vel approached him. She was barely an adult, her light organs still bright with youth. She should have been studying medicine or art or music. Instead, she had spent the last month carrying the wounded and burying the dead. "Elder," she said, her voice soft. "The eastern shield has fallen. They will be here by morning." Toven closed his eyes. He had known this moment would come. He had hoped, foolishly, that it would not come so soon. "Have we heard anything?" he asked. "From anyone?" Vel shook her head. "The Orin Collective sent a message. They said they have calculated the odds of successful intervention. They said the numbers do not favor action." "And the Veleth?" "They said Asara is not strategically important." Toven laughed. It was a bitter sound, nothing like the musical laughter of his youth. "Not strategically important. We have healed their sick for 1,000 years. We have asked for nothing in return. And now we are not strategically important." He turned away from the window and walked to the center of the room. There, covered in dust and forgotten for generations, stood the beacon. The beacon was old. It had been built in the early days of the Galactic Concord, when the great races had promised to protect each other. It was meant to be used only in the most desperate moments. When a world faced complete destruction, the signal it sent could reach every corner of the galaxy. Toven had never seen it used. His father had never seen it used. His father's father had never seen it used. He placed his hand on the cold metal. "Elder," Vel said, "the Concord races have already refused us. Who will the beacon reach that we have not already asked?" "I do not know," Toven said. "But I will not let my people die in silence. If no one comes, then let the galaxy hear us scream. Let them know what they allowed to happen. Let them remember that the Lauren asked for help, and no one answered." He pressed his palm against the activation panel. The beacon hummed. Light gathered around it, swirling like water, building in intensity until Toven had to look away. Then, with a sound like 1,000 voices crying out at once, the signal burst outward. It traveled at speeds that no ship could match. It passed through the empty spaces between stars. It touched every receiver, every station, every listening post in the known galaxy. The message was simple. It was in every language the Concord had ever recorded. It said, "We are the Lauren of Asara. We are dying. The Keth swarm is destroying our world. We have no weapons. We have no soldiers. We have only our sick, our wounded, our children. Please, anyone, help us." Toven sank to the floor after the beacon went dark. He felt empty. The last of his strength had gone into that signal, that desperate cry into the void. Vel knelt beside him. Do you think anyone will come? No, Tovan admitted. The strong races have already said no. The others are too far, or too weak, or too afraid. The Keth have destroyed 11 worlds. No one wants to be the 12th. Then why did you send it? Tovan looked at her. In her eyes, he saw the last light of his people. The last hope. The last prayer. Because doing nothing is the same as accepting death, he said. Outside, the Keth ships continued to descend. The sound of their engines was like thunder, endless and terrible. By morning, they would reach the tower. By evening, the Loran would be gone, but in a distant arm of the galaxy, far from the great civilizations, far from the Concord and its careful calculations, the signal reached a small blue planet, Earth. The humans had been quarantined for 300 years. The Concord had found them early in their space age and had been horrified by what they saw. Here was a species born on a world of death, a world of earthquakes, volcanoes, ice ages, and predators, a world where the gravity was crushing and the diseases were countless, a world that should have killed any intelligent life long before it could reach the stars. But the humans had not died. They had survived. They had thrived. They had looked at their deadly world and said, "This is home." The Concord had called them monsters, Class 7 Deathworlders, too dangerous to be allowed among the civilized races. They had drawn a line around Earth's solar system and said, "Stay here. Do not leave. Do not contact us. Do not make us come back." The humans had obeyed. For 300 years, they had stayed in their cage, but they had not been idle. They had built ships. They had trained soldiers. They had watched the galaxy from afar and learned its languages, its politics, its fears, and now, in a small room on a station orbiting Earth's moon, a young officer named Mira heard the Loran signal. She listened to it once, twice, 3 times. Then she ran to find her commander. The monsters of Earth had heard the scream, and they were about to answer. She had learned to sleep anywhere, in any position, at any time. It was a skill all soldiers learned eventually. The universe did not care if you were tired. The universe did not wait for you to be ready. Her communicator buzzed. She was awake instantly, her hand reaching for the device before her eyes were fully open. "Commander," said the voice on the other end. It was Mira, one of the junior officers on signal duty. "We have received a transmission. You need to hear this." Yuna was dressed and walking within 30 seconds. She moved through the corridors of the station with quick, efficient steps. Other soldiers moved out of her way. They knew that look on her face. Something was happening. Mira was waiting for her in the signal room. The young officer looked pale. Her hands were shaking. "Play it," Yuna said. The Loran message filled the room. Yuna listened without speaking. When it ended, she listened again. Then she asked Mira to show her the coordinates. Esara. 4,000 light-years away. Deep in conquered space, far beyond the quarantine line. "The Keth swarm," Yuna said quietly. "I have read about them." "Looks the Keth swarm." 11 worlds, Mira said. "They have destroyed 11 worlds. The Concord has done nothing. They say the Keth are too strong. And the Loran? What do we know about them? Healers. Doctors. They have sent medical teams to every corner of the galaxy for thousands of years. They do not have weapons. They do not have soldiers. They do not even have the concept of war." Yuna was silent for a long moment. She stared at the screen, at the coordinates, at the fading echo of the signal. Then she made her decision. "Open a channel to all ships in the fleet." Mira hesitated. "Commander." "The quarantine." "Commander." 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 "The quarantine." "I know what the quarantine says. Open the channel." The channel opened. Yuna spoke. "This is Commander Yuna of the United Earth Defense Fleet. 30 minutes ago, we received a distress signal from a planet called Esara. The Loran people are being destroyed by the Keth swarm. The Concord races have refused to help. The signal was not addressed to anyone. It was a cry into the void, hoping someone would hear. She paused. I heard it, and I am going to answer it. Isara is 4,000 light-years away, deep in Concord space. If we go, we will be breaking the quarantine. We will be making enemies of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. We will probably be walking into a fight we cannot win. Another pause. I am not ordering anyone to come with me. This is volunteer only. But if you want to fight for something that matters, if you want to show the galaxy what humans are made of, then meet me at Jump Point 7 in 6 hours. Yuna out. She closed the channel. For a moment, there was silence. Then Mira spoke. Commander, you cannot be serious. The Concord will what? Attack us? They are already afraid of us. That is why they put us in this cage. They will not risk a war with Earth. But the Keth have never fought humans. They do not know what we are. They do not know what we can do. Yuna turned to leave. At the door, she stopped. Mira, I have been a soldier for 20 years. I have trained. I have waited. I have watched the galaxy from behind a wall, knowing I could do nothing. Today, for the first time, I can do something. Someone is screaming for help. I am going to help them. It is that simple. She left. 6 hours later, Yuna stood on the bridge of her ship and watched the fleet gather. 17 ships had come. Not the largest fleet, but not the smallest either. Each ship was crewed by volunteers. People who had heard the signal and made the same choice she had. The first to arrive was the Hammer of Soul. It was a heavy cruiser, old but powerful, built for war. Its captain was a man named Tay. He was older than Yuna, his hair gray, his face marked with scars. He had lost his wife and children in the frontier wars, a conflict that had nearly destroyed humanity before they were even discovered by the Concord. He had been fighting ever since. Not because he wanted to live, but because he did not know how to do anything else. The second ship was the Silent Arrow. It was a stealth destroyer, small and fast, and nearly invisible. Its commander was a woman named Hana. She rarely spoke, but when she did, people listened. She had outmaneuvered entire fleets with nothing but patience and precision. The Concord intelligence agencies had files on her. They called her the Ghost. The third was the Guangzhou, a medical carrier. It was not built for combat. Its purpose was to heal, to save, to give life. Its leader was Dr. Jin, a man who had sworn an oath to help anyone who was hurt, no matter who they were or where they came from. He had brought his entire medical staff with him. They were not soldiers, but they were not afraid. The fourth was the Fury. It was a new ship, fast and aggressive, designed for hit-and-run attacks. Its captain was Day, the youngest commander in the fleet. He was barely 30 years old, but he had already earned a reputation for recklessness and courage. Some said he had a death wish. Others said he simply did not know how to be afraid. The other 13 ships were a mix of cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels. Each one had its own story, its own crew, its own reasons for being here. Yuna opened a channel to the fleet. Thank you for coming. I know what I am asking. I know what we are risking. But I also know what we are fighting for. She looked at the stars on her view screen. Somewhere out there, a world is dying. Children are crying for their parents. Parents are dying for their children. And the galaxy has turned its back on them. The great civilizations have done the math and decided that saving them is not worth the cost. Her voice hardened. I do not do math with lives. I do not calculate the value of a child's scream. I do not measure the worth of a people by their strategic importance. The Lauren asked for help. We are going to give it to them. She took a breath. The galaxy calls us monsters. They locked us away because they were afraid of what we might do. Today, we are going to show them what monsters can do when they fight for something good. We are going to show them that the most dangerous thing in the universe is not a human who wants to destroy. It is a human who wants to protect. She gave the order. All ships, jump. The stars stretched into lines of light. The ships of Earth disappeared into the void. They were coming, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 days had passed since he sent the signal. 3 days of silence. 3 days of watching his people die. One by one, while the Keth swarm closed in around them, the tower was all that remained. 10,000 Lauren huddled in its halls, waiting for the end. They had no weapons. They had no way to fight. All they could do was hold each other and pray to gods that had stopped listening. Tovan stood at the window, watching the Keth soldiers gather in the streets below. There were thousands of them. Tall, insect-like creatures with black shells and red eyes. They moved in perfect coordination, controlled by a single mind somewhere far away. They did not speak. They did not negotiate. They simply consumed. Vel sat beside him. She had not slept in days. Neither had he. "It will be over soon," she said quietly. "Perhaps that is a mercy." Tovan did not answer. He was too tired to argue, too tired to hope, too tired to do anything but watch. Then the sky split open. There was no warning. One moment, the sky was filled with Keth ships. The next, there was a flash of light, so bright that Tovan had to look away. When he looked back, 17 new ships hung in the air above the city. They were not Concord ships. Tovan had seen Concord vessels many times. They were elegant, beautiful, designed to show the wealth and power of their builders. These ships were different. They were dark, angular, covered in armor and weapons. They looked like they had been built for one purpose, and one purpose only: war. The Keth reacted immediately. Their ships turned toward the newcomers, weapons charging. The hive mind calculated the threat, analyzed the enemy, prepared a response. It never got the chance. The lead human ship fired first. A beam of white light cut through the sky and struck the nearest Keth vessel. The ship exploded in a ball of fire and falling metal. Before the debris had even hit the ground, the humans fired again, and again, and again. In less than a minute, 12 Keth ships were destroyed. Tovan watched in shock. He had never seen anything like this. The Concord races fought with precision and caution. They analyzed. They planned. They calculated. These newcomers fought like animals, fast and fierce and without hesitation. A communication came through. Tovan answered it with trembling hands. A human face appeared on the screen. It was a woman, dark-haired, dark-eyed, wearing a military uniform. Her expression was calm, but her eyes burned with something Tovan did not recognize. "This is Commander Yuna of the United Earth Defense Fleet," she said. "We received your signal. We are here to help." Tovan could not speak. He tried, but no words came out. Vel spoke for him. "You are humans?" "Yes. The Concord quarantined your people. You are not supposed to leave your system." Yuna smiled. It was a strange expression, both warm and dangerous at the same time. "We made an exception." Below, the Keth soldiers had stopped their advance. They stood motionless, waiting for orders from the hive mind. The hive mind was trying to understand what was happening. It had records of humans, old files from the Concord archives. It knew what they were. It knew what they were capable of. For the first time in its existence, the hive mind felt something it had never felt before: uncertainty. "How many of the Keth are on the planet?" Yuna asked. Vel checked her instruments. "Millions. They control the entire eastern hemisphere. Their main hive is in the mountains, 300 kilometers from here." "Understood. We will start there." "Commander," Tovan finally managed to speak, "you do not understand. There are millions of them. You have only 17 ships. The mathematics." "We do not fight with mathematics," Yuna interrupted. "We fight with will. Tell your people to stay inside. This is going to get loud." The transmission ended. Outside, the human ships began to descend. Landing craft dropped from their bellies, carrying soldiers to the surface. Tovan watched them come down, hundreds of figures in dark armor, carrying weapons that looked too large for any living thing to hold. One of the landing craft touched down near the tower. A door opened, and a squad of human soldiers emerged. They moved with a coordination that reminded Tovin of the Keth, but there was something different about it. The Keth moved because they were controlled. The humans moved because they chose to. Their leader approached the tower entrance. He was a large man, heavily built, with a face that looked like it had been carved from stone. He looked up at Tovin's window and raised a hand in greeting. Then he turned to his soldiers and began giving orders. Tovin watched as the humans spread out through the city. They set up defensive positions. They checked their weapons. They spoke to each other in low voices, laughing sometimes, slapping each other on the shoulders. They did not look afraid. They did not look worried. They looked almost excited. Vel stood beside him, her light organs flickering with confusion. "Elder, I do not understand these creatures. They are walking into a battle they cannot win. Why are they smiling?" Tovin thought about the question for a long time. He remembered the old records, the files the Concord had shared about humanity. He remembered the words they had used: Deathworlders, monsters, dangerous. But he also remembered something else. A single line, in one of the oldest files, written by a Concord observer who had studied humanity centuries ago. "They are not like us," the observer had written. "They do not fight because they must. They fight because they believe. Give a human something to believe in, and they will move mountains. They will cross galaxies. They will die smiling, knowing they died for something that mattered." Tovin looked at the human soldiers below. He saw the way they moved, the way they talked, the way they looked at the sky where the Keth ships were gathering. "I think," he said slowly, "that they are smiling because they are finally free." Free? The Concord locked them away. They called them monsters and put them in a cage. For 300 years, the humans have been waiting, watching, wanting to prove that they are more than what the galaxy thinks they are. He turned to Vel. Today, someone asked for their help, and they came. Not because they had to, not because they would gain anything, but because it was the right thing to do. Outside, the sound of weapons fire began to echo across the city. The humans had engaged the Keth. The battle for Isara had begun. Tovin watched the flashes of light, heard the explosions, felt the tower shake with each impact. He was still afraid. He still did not know if they would survive. But for the first time in 3 days, he felt something else. Hope. The monsters had come to save them. And they were just getting started. The Keth hive mind had conquered 11 worlds. It had faced armies, fleets, and weapons of every kind. It had learned to adapt, to overcome, to consume. It had never faced anything like the humans. In the first hour of battle, the hive mind lost 6,000 soldiers. This was not unusual. The Keth fought with numbers, and numbers meant losses. What was unusual was how they died. The Concord races fought defensively. They built walls. They created shields. They waited for the Keth to attack and then responded with measured force. The humans did not fight like this. The humans attacked. They pushed forward. They did not wait for the enemy to come to them. They went to the enemy. Sergeant Ho led a squad of 12 soldiers through the Eastern District. They were supposed to clear the area and secure a landing zone for reinforcements. The Keth had other plans. 100 soldiers surrounded them within minutes. The hive mind calculated that the humans would retreat. It was the logical choice. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and far from support. Ho did not retreat. "Form up," he shouted. "Back to back. Make them pay for every step." The humans formed a circle. They fired in controlled bursts, each shot finding its target. The Keth came at them in waves, and each wave fell. The ground became covered with bodies. A Keth blade caught Ho in the shoulder. The metal went through his armor, through his flesh, and stopped against his bone. Any Concord soldier would have fallen. Any conquered soldier would have screamed for help. Ho pulled the blade out, threw it back at the Keth who had stabbed him, and kept firing. "Is that all you have?" He laughed. Blood ran down his arm. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. But he did not stop. He could not stop. His people were counting on him. The hive mind observed this. It did not understand. The human was injured. The human was in pain. The human should have been disabled, should have been easy to finish. Instead, the human seemed to fight harder. The injury had not weakened him. It had made him angry. The hive mind added a note to its records. Humans do not respond to pain like other species. In the mountains, Commander Hana led a strike team through the Keth breeding tunnels. These tunnels were where the Keth made more of themselves, using the bodies of the dead and the resources of the planet. Destroying them would slow the swarm significantly. The tunnels were dark. The Keth had not installed lights because they did not need them. Their eyes could see in complete darkness. The Concord races would have needed special equipment, special suits, special sensors. The humans walked in without any of it. They moved by sound. They moved by heat. They felt the air currents and knew where the openings were. They communicated with hand signals, touching each other's arms to pass messages in the dark. A Lauren scout named Ven had volunteered to guide them. He watched the humans with growing amazement. His species could glow, could make their own light, but even he struggled in the absolute blackness of the tunnels. The humans moved like they had been born in darkness. "How are you doing this?" he whispered. Hana answered without stopping. "Our ancestors lived in caves. They hunted at night. They learned to use every sense, not just their eyes. The darkness is not our enemy. It is our friend." Quote, they reached the breeding chamber. Hundreds of Keth larvae hung from the ceiling, growing into soldiers. The humans planted explosives in silence, working with steady hands even as acid dripped from above. A young soldier named Sue placed the final charge. As she did, 3 Keth warriors emerged from a side tunnel. They were fast, faster than any enemy she had faced before. They were on her before she could raise her weapon. Sue did not scream. She did not call for help. She dropped her gun and drew her knife. The Keth had never seen a human fight with a blade. They had claws and mandibles and shells of armor. They should have had every advantage. Sue killed all 3 of them in less than 10 seconds. When her team reached her, she was standing over the bodies, breathing hard, her knife dripping with yellow blood. She had cuts on her arms and face. One of her eyes was swelling shut. "I need a bandage," she said calmly, "and someone should probably check if that acid is poisonous." The explosives detonated 5 minutes later. The breeding chamber collapsed, killing thousands of unborn Keth. The hive mind felt each death like a wound in its own body. It began to recalculate its strategy. On the medical ship Gwangju, Dr. Jin worked without rest. The wounded came in waves, both human and Lauren. He treated them all the same, moving from bed to bed, surgery to surgery, crisis to crisis. A Lauren child was brought in, barely alive. Her body had been burned by Keth weapons. Her chances of survival were almost zero. Jin worked on her for 6 hours straight. His assistants begged him to rest, to eat, to let someone else take over. He refused. The child's heart stopped twice. He brought her back both times. When he finally stepped away from the table, the child was stable. She would live. She would have scars, but she would live. One of the Lauren nurses approached him. Her light organs flickered with something that might have been awe. "You have not slept in 32 hours, she said. "You have performed 12 surgeries. How are you still standing?" Jin looked at her with tired eyes. "I made a promise when I became a doctor. I promised to help anyone who needed me, no matter what it cost. That child needed me. So I helped her. But your body, how does it not collapse?" End quote. Jin smiled. It was a weak smile, exhausted and strained, but genuine. Human bodies are stubborn. We can push them further than they want to go. Our minds can override our limits, at least for a while. Later, I will sleep for a very long time. But right now, there are more wounded coming. I will rest when they are safe. The hive mind observed all of this. It collected data from every battle, every encounter, every death. It analyzed the information and tried to find patterns, weaknesses, ways to defeat this enemy. It found none. The humans did not behave rationally. They did not retreat when they should. They did not give up when they were injured. They did not abandon their companions when the situation became hopeless. They did things that made no logical sense, things that should have gotten them killed. And yet, they kept winning. The hive mind was ancient. It had consumed civilizations that had existed for millions of years. It had faced technology that made human weapons look like toys. It had always won because it was patient, because it was endless, because it did not fear death. But now, for the first time, the hive mind felt something new. Something it had only ever seen in its prey. Never in itself. Fear. These humans were not just dangerous. They were not just strong. They were something the hive mind had never encountered in all its long existence. They were monsters who had chosen to be heroes, and the hive mind did not know how to fight that. Commander Yuna stood on the bridge of her ship and watched the battle unfold below. The humans were winning. Slowly, painfully, but winning. The eastern district was secure. The breeding tunnels had been destroyed. The Keth advance had been stopped at 3 different points. For the first time since the invasion began, the Lauren were not losing ground. But the war was far from over. "Commander," said her communications officer, "we are receiving a transmission. It is not from the Keth. Put it through." The screen flickered. A face appeared, elegant and cold. Yuna recognized the species immediately. It was an Orun, one of the oldest and most powerful races in the Galactic Concord. They had pale skin, large eyes, and an expression of permanent superiority. "Human vessel," the Orun said. "You are in violation of Quarantine Order 7 Alpha. You have entered restricted space without authorization. You have engaged in military action without Concord approval. You will cease all operations immediately and return to your designated zone." Yuna said nothing. "This is not a request," the Orun continued. "The Concord has observed your actions. We are prepared to take steps to enforce compliance. You have 1 hour to begin withdrawal." Still, Yuna said nothing. She let the Orun wait. Let the silence stretch. Let him wonder if she had even heard him. Finally, she spoke. "No." The Orun blinked. In his entire life, no species had ever simply said no to the Concord. "I do not think you understand your situation," he said. "The Concord represents 1,700 civilizations. We have fleets that could reduce your entire solar system to dust. You are 17 ships against the greatest power in the galaxy." "I understand perfectly," Yuna said. "You want us to leave these people to die. You want us to go back to our cage and be good little monsters, while an entire species is wiped out. The Lauren situation is regrettable, but regrettable." Yuna's voice was like ice. "You calculated the odds and decided they were not worth saving. You looked at a world full of children and doctors and teachers and decided that helping them was too expensive." She leaned forward. "Let me tell you something about humans. We do not calculate the value of lives. We do not weigh the cost of doing the right thing. When someone asks for help, we help them. It does not matter if they are strong or weak, valuable or worthless, near or far. If they need us, we come." The Orun tried to interrupt. Yuna did not let him. "You quarantined us because you were afraid. You called us monsters because we survived what would have killed you. You locked us away because you could not understand us, could not control us, could not predict what we would do." She stood up from her chair. "But you made a mistake. You forgot what monsters are for. Monsters protect. Monsters fight. Monsters stand between the weak and the darkness and say, 'You shall not pass.' You forgot that the most dangerous creature in the universe is not one that wants to destroy. It is one that has something to protect." She pointed at the screen. "Today, everyone on Asara is under our protection. Every Lauren child, every Lauren elder, every person who has ever healed, ever helped, ever shown kindness to the galaxy. They are ours now. and we will fight for them." The Oran's face had gone pale. "You cannot win against the conquered. You must know this. Maybe not. But we can make you bleed. We can make you hurt. We can make the cost so high that even your careful calculations will say it is not worth it." She smiled, and there was nothing warm in it. "How many ships are you willing to lose, counselor? How many worlds? How many of your precious civilizations? Because I promise you, we will take them. We will take as many as we can before we fall." She sat back down. "So here is my answer to your ultimatum. No. We will not leave. No. We will not stop fighting. No. We will not go back to our cage. And if you want to make us, you are welcome to try." The transmission ended. The bridge was silent. Every officer stared at their commander, waiting to see what would happen next. Captain Tay was the first to speak. His voice came through the fleet channel, rough and tired but strong. "Well said, Commander. If we are going to die, at least we will die for something." Then, Hana's voice. "The ghost stands with you." Then Jin's. "The Guangju will heal your wounded until the end." Then Days. "The Fury will burn their fleets until there is nothing left to burn." One by one, every ship in the fleet spoke. 17 voices, 17 promises, 17 declarations of defiance. Yuna felt something warm in her chest. Pride, perhaps. Or love. The love of a soldier for her comrades. For the people who would stand beside her no matter what came. "Thank you," she said quietly. "All of you." Then she opened a channel to the entire planet. "People of Esara. This is Commander Yuna of Earth. You have heard my words to the Concord. You know what we are risking. I want you to know that we do not regret it. We came here because you asked for help, and no one else answered. We came here because it was the right thing to do. And we will stay until the job is done, no matter what the galaxy threatens." She paused. "I know you are afraid. I know you have suffered. I know that hope seems impossible after everything you have lost. But I want you to hold on. Hold on for one more day, one more hour, one more minute. Because we are here. And we will not let you fall." In the Tower of Ves, Elder Toven listened to the message. Tears ran down his face, leaving glowing trails on his gray skin. Vel stood beside him, her light organs bright with emotion. "They are going to fight the entire galaxy for us," she whispered. "They barely know us. They have never met us. Why would they do this?" Toven shook his head. "I do not know. I do not think I will ever understand. But I know what I must do." He activated the city's communication system. "People of Esara," he said, "you have heard the human commander. They have come to save us. They are fighting for us. The least we can do is help them." He looked at the screens showing the battle, at the human soldiers fighting in the streets, at the ships burning in the sky. "I know we are not warriors. I know we do not have weapons or training or strength, but we have skills. We have knowledge. We have hands that can heal, and minds that can solve. The humans are giving their blood for us. Let us give them whatever we can in return." Across the city, Lauren began to move. They opened their emergency shelters to wounded human soldiers. They shared their food and water. They guided human squads through streets they knew better than anyone. They treated injuries, repaired equipment, provided information. They could not fight, but they could help. And in helping, they became part of the battle. The Conquered observed all of this from their distant stations. They had expected the humans to back down. They had expected fear, submission, rationality. Instead, they had received defiance, and now they faced a choice. Do they send their fleets? Do they risk a war with a species that had just told them, to their faces, that they would die before surrendering? The calculations were run again. The risks were assessed, the costs were measured, and the Concord did nothing. They watched, they waited. They let the battle continue, because deep down, in places they would never admit, the great civilizations of the galaxy were curious. They wanted to see what the monsters would do. The final battle for Esara began on the 9th day. The hive mind had gathered its forces. Every Keth soldier on the planet, every ship in orbit, Every resource it could spare was thrown into one massive assault. The hive mind had calculated that it could not win a long war against the humans. Their endurance was too great. Their determination too strong. The only chance was to overwhelm them with numbers, to crush them before they could adapt. Millions of Keth soldiers marched toward the city of Ves. The sky turned black with their ships. The ground shook with their footsteps. Commander Yuna looked at the approaching army and felt no fear. She had known this moment would come. She had prepared for it. All ships. This is the final push. They are throwing everything at us. We need to break their command structure. Take out the Queen's neural nexus, and the hive mind will fall apart, Captain Tay responded first. Commander, the nexus is in the center of their fleet. We cannot reach it without going through their entire force. I know, Yuna said. That is why I am not sending the fleet. I am sending one ship. Silence on the channel. Then Day's voice. I will do it. Day, this is a suicide mission. You know that. I know. There was no fear in his voice. No hesitation. My ship is the fastest in the fleet. If anyone can get through, it is me. And if I fail, at least I will take some of them with me. We have not raid on he. Yuna closed her eyes. She had hoped someone else would volunteer. She had hoped there would be another way. But there was not. Go with honor, Captain Day. Thank you, Commander. It has been an honor serving with you. The Fury broke away from the fleet and headed toward the Keth Armada. It was a small ship against a sea of enemies. A single light against the darkness. Day pushed his engines to their limit. Alarms screamed as the hull heated up. Keth weapons fire filled the space around him, and he dodged through it like water through stones. Crew, he said calmly, get to the escape pods. I will take it from here. Captain, that is an order. There is no reason for all of us to die. Get out. Now. Clowned. The escape pods launched. Day watched them go, made sure they were clear, and then turned back to the enemy. He was alone now. Alone against millions. He smiled. You know, he said to no one. I always wondered how I would die. I thought it would be something stupid. A training accident. A bar fight. Maybe a heart attack. He laughed. This is better. This means something. The Keth ships were everywhere now. His shields were failing. His weapons were overheating. He could see the neural nexus ahead. A massive structure at the center of the fleet. He aimed his ship directly at it. For Earth, he whispered. For Esara. For everyone who ever needed a monster to protect them. The Fury hit the neural nexus at maximum speed. The explosion was visible from the planet's surface. 600,000 Keth died in that moment. But more importantly, the neural nexus was destroyed. The link between the hive mind and its soldiers was severed. For the first time in their existence, the Keth experienced individual thought, individual fear, individual terror, and they broke. On the ground, Sergeant Ho saw the change immediately. The Keth soldiers, which had been moving in perfect coordination, suddenly stopped. They looked around in confusion. They collided with each other. They ran in random directions. Now, Ho shouted. Push them now. The human soldiers surged forward. They had been holding a mountain pass for 14 hours, waiting for this moment. Ho had 17 wounds. He could barely see out of one eye. His left arm was numb from blood loss. None of it mattered. He led the charge himself, screaming with a voice that no longer sounded human. His soldiers followed, their weapons blazing, their boots pounding the earth. The Keth fled. For the first time in their species' history, they ran from an enemy. They scattered across the battlefield like insects, no longer soldiers. Just creatures desperate to survive. In the tunnels beneath the mountains, Commander Hana reached the Queen's chamber. The Queen was the last link to the hive mind. The final anchor that could restore control. If she survived, the Keth could regroup. If she died, the swarm was finished. Hana faced the Queen alone. Her team had fallen one by one, sacrificing themselves to get her this far. She had one weapon left. One chance. The queen was massive, twice the size of a normal Keth, her body bristling with neural tendrils. She looked at Hana with 1,000 eyes. "You are dying," the queen said. It was the first time a Keth had ever spoken to an enemy. The first time individual thought had allowed such communication. "Your body is failing. You cannot win." Hana smiled. Blood ran from her mouth. 3 of her ribs were broken. She could barely stand. "You are right," she said. "I am dying. But I do not need to win. I just need to finish." She raised her weapon. The queen moved faster than anything Hana had ever seen. Her claws tore through Hana's side. Pain exploded through her body. The world went white, but her finger pulled the trigger. The blast hit the queen directly. The neural tendrils disintegrated. The queen's scream echoed through the tunnels, and then there was silence. Hana fell to the ground. She could not move. She could barely breathe. But she was smiling. Above ground, Dr. Jin performed surgery after surgery. Human soldiers, Lauren civilians, even, once, a dying Keth warrior. The Keth had been found shielding a Lauren child with its own body. When the hive mind's control was severed, something had awakened in it. Something individual, something that chose to protect instead of destroy. Jin worked on the creature for 3 hours. He used techniques he had never tried before, adapted human medicine to an alien physiology he did not understand. His assistants told him it was hopeless. The Keth was too far gone. He did not listen. The Keth died on his table. Despite everything, Jin could not save it, but he wept for it anyway. "Why do you cry?" a Lauren nurse asked. "It was the enemy." Jin wiped his eyes. It stopped being the enemy when it chose to save that child. In that moment, it became something else. Something worth mourning. The battle ended at sunset. The Keth ships that could still fly fled into space. The soldiers that could still walk surrendered or scattered. The swarm that had destroyed 11 worlds was broken. Isara had survived. On the mountain pass, Sergeant Ho finally collapsed. When reinforcements found him, he was the only one of his squad still alive. His body was a map of wounds. He should have been dead hours ago. He opened his eyes, saw the soldiers standing over him, and managed to raise his hand in a weak salute. "They did not get through," he whispered. "Tell the commander. They did not get through." Then he closed his eyes. He would survive. Barely. But he would never fight again. He did not mind. He had done enough. In the tunnels, a rescue team found Hana. She was still alive. Against all odds. Her heart was still beating. Her lungs still breathing. The queen's claw had missed her vital organs by millimeters. When she woke up in the medical bay, her first words were, "Did we win?" "Yes," Jin told her. "We won." She smiled and went back to sleep. The war for Isara was over. The monsters of Earth had kept their promise. The Galactic Concord met in emergency session. Representatives from 1,700 civilizations gathered in the Great Hall of Orin Prime. They had come to discuss what the humans had done, to decide what should happen next, to determine the fate of the monsters who had broken every rule the galaxy had made. The Orin High Counselor stood at the center of the hall. His face was grave, his voice heavy with the weight of centuries of tradition. "We are here to discuss the human violation of Quarantine Order 7 Alpha, he announced. "The facts are clear. The humans left their designated zone without permission. They engaged in military action in Concord space. They ignored direct orders to withdraw. By our laws, they must face consequences." Murmurs filled the hall. Some species nodded in agreement. Others shifted uncomfortably. A few looked away. The counselor continued. "I propose that we issue sanctions against Earth. Trade restrictions. Travel bans. Military monitoring. They must learn that the rules of the Concord apply to all species, no matter how dangerous." Before the vote could be called, a new voice spoke. "May I address the assembly?" The hall went silent. A figure walked forward from the human delegation. She was tall, dressed in the formal clothes of an Earth diplomat. Her name was Un. and she was the ambassador of Earth. The counselor frowned. This is irregular. The accused does not speak at their own judgment. Then do not judge me, Un said calmly. Simply listen. She walked to the center of the hall, where every eye could see her. I have heard your proposal. Sanctions. Restrictions. Punishment. You want to remind us that we are monsters, that we must stay in our cage, that we have no right to act without your permission. She looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of species she had never seen before. Let me tell you what the monsters did while you were calculating odds and measuring strategic value. She raised her hand. A screen flickered to life behind her. This is Isara. 3 weeks ago, the Lauren people sent a signal asking for help. You received that signal. All of you. 1,700 civilizations. You analyzed it, discussed it, and decided to do nothing. The Lauren were going to die, and you let it happen. Images appeared on the screen. The burning cities, the fleeing refugees, the Keth swarm descending from the sky. The humans received the same signal. We are not as strong as you. We are not as advanced. We do not have your fleets or your resources. But we went anyway. More images, human ships arriving, soldiers landing, battles in the streets and mountains. We lost good people. A captain named Day flew his ship into the enemy command structure. He killed 600,000 Keth soldiers and destroyed their neural nexus. He died alone, smiling, knowing that his death would save millions. The hall was silent. A commander named Hana fought the Keth queen by herself. She was wounded, dying, barely able to stand. But she finished the mission. She broke the swarm. Yoon's voice was steady, but there was fire beneath it. A sergeant named Ho held a mountain pass for 14 hours with a squad of 8. When we found him, he was the only one still standing. His body had 17 wounds. He should have died 100 times, but he did not let the enemy pass. She turned off the screen. These are the monsters you quarantined. These are the creatures you locked away because you were afraid. You called us dangerous. You called us violent. You called us unfit to walk among civilized species. She stepped forward. You were right. We are dangerous. We are violent. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day. And we survived. We carry war in our history and fire in our blood, but you forgot something important. Her voice rose. Monsters can choose what they fight for. She spread her hands. We chose to fight for a species we had never met. We chose to bleed for a world we had never seen. We chose to die for people who could not defend themselves, who had nothing to offer us, who had simply asked for help when no one else would answer. She looked at the Orin counselor. That is what your monsters did. While you counted costs and measured risks, we saved a world. While you debated and calculated, we buried our dead and healed our wounded and stood guard over the innocent. She paused. So, here is my question to this assembly. Do you want to punish us for that? Do you want to sanction us for doing what you were too afraid to do? Do you want to put us back in our cage and pretend that Isara never happened? She waited. No one spoke. Or, she said slowly, do you want to try something different? She looked around the hall once more. We are not asking for gratitude. We are not asking for reward. We are asking for a chance. Let us out of our cage. Let us walk among you. Let us be part of the galaxy. Not as prisoners, but as partners. Her voice softened. I know you are still afraid of us. I understand. We are afraid of ourselves sometimes. But fear does not have to mean separation. We can learn from each other. We can grow together. We can build something better than walls and quarantines and judgments. She stepped back. The choice is yours. Vote for sanctions, and we will return to Earth. We will stay in our cage. We will watch from afar as the next world burns, and the next, and the next. Or vote to end the quarantine, and we will stand with you. We will fight for you. We will be the monsters who protect the innocent. The strong arm that shields the weak. The fire that holds back the darkness. She smiled, and there was warmth in it. Real warmth. That is our offer. We will never ask for thanks. We will never demand payment. We will simply be there. Whenever you need us. For as long as you need us. She bowed her head. Because that is what Earth's monsters do. The vote was called an hour later. The motion to sanction humanity failed. Not a single species voted in favor. The motion to end the quarantine passed unanimously. 1 week later, a ceremony was held on Asara. Representatives from across the galaxy gathered to honor the humans who had fought and died. Commander Yuna stood at the front, her uniform pressed, her medals shining. Beside her were the survivors. Hana, still recovering from her wounds. Jin, who had not stopped working since the battle ended. Ho, in a wheelchair, his body broken but his spirit intact, and spaces. Empty spaces for those who had not returned. For Day. For the soldiers who had fallen. For the monsters who had given everything. Elder Tovin approached the podium. His light organs glowed bright, brighter than they had in years. I do not have words, he said. In all the languages of the Loran. In all the poetry and philosophy of my people. I cannot find words big enough for what you have done. He looked at the humans. You came when no one else would. You bled for us. You died for us. You asked for nothing in return. I do not know how to repay a debt like that. I do not think I ever will. 70s. He bowed, a deep bow, the kind the Loran reserved for the highest honor. So I will simply say, thank you. Thank you for hearing our scream. Thank you for answering. Thank you for being the monsters we needed. He straightened. We will never forget you. As long as the Loran exist, we will tell this story. We will remember the humans who came from the stars to save us. We will remember the monsters who became heroes. A statue was built in the center of Ves. It depicted a human soldier carrying a Loran child, walking toward a rising sun. The soldier's face was tired, marked with wounds, but smiling. The child was looking up at the soldier with eyes full of trust. The inscription was written in every language of the Concord. They came when no one else would. Remember them. And across the galaxy, one by one, the quarantine beacons around Earth went dark. The walls came down. The cage opened. The monsters were free. Commander Yuna stood on the bridge of her ship and watched the stars. Somewhere out there, more worlds were burning. More people were screaming. More signals were going out into the void, hoping someone would hear. She smiled. All ships, she said. This is Commander Yuna. We are free now. Free to go where we are needed. Free to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. Free to be what we were always meant to be. She looked at her crew, at the faces of men and women who had followed her into hell and back. So let us begin. There is a galaxy out there full of people who need our help. Let us show them what Earth's monsters can do. The ships turned toward the stars. The monsters were ready. And the galaxy would never be the same.